Let's get into some climate change news. Here's a graph that Forest Dweller put up. He was trying to, I think he was trying to say that the Arctic is not in the dire straits that people are saying, but this is total Arctic extent. Excuse me, total Arctic extent. And what I've been covering the last few days are certain areas of the Arctic, in which I showed a satellite image of yesterday, I think. Was it yesterday or the day before, of the sea ice extent 2012 compared to 2020? That wasn't, you know, that wasn't a lie. We're about at or lower than we were. Where are we? But this is the Laptev Sea. So this is not the entire Arctic, but a point in the Arctic. What is the date on this? This is 2 days ago, October 28th. More bad news for the Arctic. The Laptev Sea hasn't frozen. So, yeah, I'm just trying to clarify. The difference between the entire Arctic and certain areas of the Arctic are different. There are certain areas, the Siberian Sea, the Laptev Sea, etc. But this is where we are. The Laptev Sea, very, very low. It is increasing now, but it's taken a long time. And it was decreasing much, much earlier than last year, the year before, and the years before that. Much, much earlier. So that's the graph that, this is not cherry-picked data. This is the data from the Laptev Sea. The Laptev Sea, nestled between the north coast of Siberia and Russia's New Siberian Islands, is known as the birthplace of ice. Every year, ice forms along its coasts in the autumn before being pushed west across the Arctic Ocean to Greenland and Norway's Svalbard archipelago, where it breaks up come spring every year. That is until this year. For the first time since records began, the Laptev Sea has not begun to freeze by late October. See chart. This is the chart. See the chart. The Laptev Sea has not begun to freeze by late October. This is the only the latest example of how climate change is rapidly transforming the Arctic. Scientists worry that it could have damaging knock-on effects across the region. And there you go. Just a quick headline blurb from but we have been following this for several days. This was sent to me by Yellow Vest News. A tsunami in Turkey. Did y'all hear about this one? There's a tsunami in Turkey because there was an earthquake off the coast of Greece. Hold on one second. I want to stop this noise a little bit. Turkey tsunami. This is from today. Deadly 7.0 magnitude. Greece earthquake sends wave crashing through city. The city of Izmir. And we'll watch this footage a little bit. If we can. If we can. Maybe we can't. Here we go. So yeah, large wave of water, otherwise known as a tsunami, went through Izmir. A massive 7.0 magnitude earthquake has struck the Turkish city of Izmir, setting off a mini tsunami in its wake. The governor of the region has said the quake destroyed dozens of buildings, while dramatic footage from social media shows houses collapsing in the aftermath of the quake. Apologize for having this noise. Let me see. Officials have stated that at least 4 people are dead with 120 injured. Following the earthquake, water from the Aegean Sea filled the streets, prompting residents to flee to higher ground. In one clip, a huge wave is seen crashing through the streets of the city. This looks like the footage I just showed you. A tweet captioned the video, wow, a mini tsunami occurred in Izmir's Seferihisar after a 6.6 magnitude earthquake. Another clip showing powerful waves in the streets of Izmir. So some of the damage shown here. Turkey's Disaster and Emergency Preparedness Management Presidency said the earthquake was centered in the Aegean Sea at a depth of 10.3 miles and registered at 6.6. However, the United States Geological Survey put the magnitude at 7.0. Building in Izmir collapses following earthquake. Let's watch this. If we can, here we go. And I cannot miss the opportunity to point out that that's what a building looks like when it collapses on itself. It actually doesn't collapse all the way to the ground. Just saying. You know, kind of parts of it collapse and roll off the other side. So, just in case you're unsure about how buildings collapse, that's what they look like. Hold on, man, I'm getting a lot of unwanted noise here. This auto playing videos that just keep on going. Forcing Climate Info says we collapse like the church backbones. Wow. That's rather beautiful. I like that poetry. Dark side, exactly. Let's move on. Another headline out of Scientific American: Earth stopped getting greener 20 years ago. Declining plant growth is linked to decreasing air moisture tied to global warming. This is from a year ago, by the way. So I didn't really want to read too much into this, but I just wanted to give you the headline. But in case you hadn't seen this article or seen this news, the world is gradually becoming less green. I think we can all kind of understand that or agree that we already knew that. Scientists have found plant growth is declining all over the planet. And new research links the phenomenon to decreasing moisture in the air, a consequence of climate change. The study published yesterday, or that was a year ago, in Science Advances, points to satellite observations that revealed expanding vegetation worldwide during much of the 1980s and 1990s. But then, about 20 years ago, the trend stopped. Since then, more than half of the world's vegetated landscapes have been experiencing a browning trend, or decrease in plant growth, according to the authors. Climate records suggest the declines are associated with a metric known as vapor pressure deficit. That's the difference between the amount of moisture the air actually holds versus the maximum amount of moisture it could be holding. A high deficit is sometimes referred to as an atmospheric drought. Since the late 1990s, more than half of the world's vegetated landscapes have experienced a growing deficit or drying pattern. I believe we covered at least this part. I remember covering maybe a couple articles about the deficit in moisture that could be held in the air. And that was that. Here's another headline, very scary headline from Los Angeles Times. How the waters off California's coast became a DDT dumping ground. And this is just some depression to bring y'all. If you know, not only was DDT put in barrels and dumped off the coast, I'm just going to read. I'm not going to get deep into this article, but decades ago, the Los Angeles coast was hidden, or into the article at all, but just read you the synopsis. The Los Angeles coast was a hidden dumping ground for thousands of barrels of acid sludge laced with the toxic pesticide DDT. The ocean buried the evidence for generations. No one could see it until now, until the barrels start dissolving and the stuff starts dissolving. And well, maybe we will look at this. I don't know. So apparently not far from the Santa Catalina Island, they're getting signals from these leaking barrels. Holy moly. Barrels filled with toxic chemicals banned decades ago, littered across the ocean floor. Yeah. Just something to be highly depressed about. You know, they did this with radioactive waste as well. The military and other entities just filled barrels with radioactive waste and took them. You know, you can see videos of this happening on YouTube. Just look it up. They're just dumping barrels and barrels and barrels, thousands and thousands of barrels filled with radioactive waste into the water indiscriminately, where it's doing all kinds of lovely things to the ocean. Osama, acid sludge is my new metal band. Yeah. Oceanic Estate says toxic stew, Fukushima and DDT. It's what's for breakfast. Cindy Seeley, there are also barrels filled with toxins around the Farallone Islands in Northern California. Yeah. They're all over. They're all over the place, and many countries, not just the U.S., but many countries did this kind of stuff. Just put waste into barrels, took it out to sea, dumped it, did like this. Nobody will know. That's fine. It's all going to go away. The ocean's just going to wash it all away. Andy the Gardener, it's okay. Nobody actually lives in the ocean. I think that's what they were thinking. Yeah. Just wanted to give you a little bit of that depression. And lastly, I want to kind of try to finish up this article I was reading the other day from Yale about maybe. Well, no, scratch that, strike that, reverse that. I'm not going to do that. Actually, I'm gonna look at this article or this tweet. Not an article, a tweet from Jem Bendel. Kind of trying to decipher what this means, and I think that he maybe is too. This is from Paul Medowski. A challenge to the environmental movement. If we don't cut and draw down emissions ASAP, disruption will increase. And yet, if we did do that, anyone got any recent good analysis on implications of decarbonizing globally as quickly as these graphs imagine it? Well, and maybe this speaks a little bit to the aerosol masking effect and or global dimming. I don't know. And here, Peter Dines follows up, decarbonizing this quickly would cook us due to loss of masking straight over 2C in weeks. Well, maybe. I'm just gonna say most likely, but there's a little bit of maybe in there because we had some decarbonizing or emissions reductions this year. And did we go straight to 2C? No, we did not. Does that mean that we wouldn't quicken the pace? Most likely we would quicken the pace, but I don't, as far as the 2 weeks thing or the couple of weeks thing, who knows? Thankfully, those targets are fantasy and won't happen. Mass drawdown in oceans plus SRM is needed. Anything else is kidding yourself and others, and there's plenty of that going on. So that's what Peter Dine says. Peter Dine says, again, immediately ending carbon dioxide emissions will not be enough to solve the climate crisis. We also need to stabilize the Earth's temperature by compensating the loss of albedo from short-lived anthropogenic aerosols. Sure. But how do we do that is a really good question. He's saying we need solar radiation management. We're going to be in a situation where unless we act with SRM, where the cooling pollutant is dropping off while the warming pollutant is going up. CO2 will be going up and particles will be dropping off. That means we'll get an accelerated warming. We'll get a double whammy. So, this is just a discussion on what happens if we do drop emissions. So someone replies to this. Paul Eastwood says, to remain within the Paris 2C goal, the faster and harder we cut emissions now, the less we'll need to suck emissions out of the atmosphere in the latter half of the century through trees and tech. That's what he says. I see. This is what Paul Eastwood is saying. Gross negative emissions. Oh, so these are the emissions that we will have to, if we go slower, we're going to have to do negative emissions. I see. I'm understanding now. It took me a second. I'm a little slow. Pardon me. Right? So he's saying if we go really fast, we're not going to have to suck out these things. This is a little bit debatable, guys. A little bit debatable. But this is all part of the debate about what it is we're going to do, if we can actually do anything, if we actually get ourselves together, or coordinate ourselves as a species on the planet, what it is that we're actually going to have to do. Are we going to have to break out the big tech guns? Are we going to have to break out the big solar radiation management guns or the negative emissions guns? Hey guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe, and you can support the channel at the links below, PayPal, Patreon, Square. Also, if you'd like to watch the live streams, you can watch the live streams on my Patreon channel. You can subscribe for as little as $1. So hopefully I will see you over there, and thanks so much.